Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to the very exciting University of Akron webinar with a topic of visa and compliance. We're going to speak about very exciting topics today. I know a lot of people have so many questions about both the visa compliance, how to prepare for the interview, all the rules of staying in US, receiving your visa, CVIS, DS-160. There's just so many questions. So today I'm really, really happy to host this webinar together with my colleagues from Akron and to speak about all these topics. Now, while people are joining, a couple of housekeeping rules. Number one, if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them throughout the session in the Q&A section. That's Q&A section, not the chat section, and we will be trying to answer your questions throughout the webinar. And for the rest, we will keep them till the end of the webinar. So make sure you stay tuned because in the end, we will be answering your questions as well. So today we're going to speak about topics such as how to apply for an F1 visa, how to prepare before the interview, most common mistakes we hear students do during the interview. We're also going to speak about CPT and OPT options, and as well with my colleagues, we're going to speak about the biggest myths and truths we currently hear in the market and even in social media. And we're going to discuss what's actually true and what's just a myth. And now, if we go to the next slide, I'm very happy to introduce that with me today we have Nicola Kyle, who is our Executive Director in International Students and Services Support at the University of Akron. Hi, Nicola.
Hello.
Hi, hi. And we also have Shara Jackson, which is Associate Director in International Student Services and Support. Hi, Shara.
Hello.
Wonderful. So glad to have you here today. And without further ado, I would like to go into the next slide and give it to Nicola to speak a little bit about the University of Akron. Nicola, over to
Just a
you.
little bit. Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everybody. It's very exciting to be here to help guide you through this process. So again, I'm Nicola. I work at the University of Akron in the International Center. And I'm going to spend a few minutes before we dive into the visa process to just explain to you a little bit about our university. So we are a university of about 15,000 students. We're located in wonderful Akron, Ohio, in the Eastern time zone of the United States. We're in the northeastern part of our state, so we're just underneath Lake Erie, so close to Canada. But again, the same time zone as New York. One of the things that I like about the University of Akron is that you really get the best of both worlds if you come here. So I said we're in a city. We're located right in the center of our city, about 200,000 people. So we have all the great things that go with being in a city. So we have shops, we have restaurants, we have galleries, we have an art museum, we have a sports team. We have local businesses that provide internship and co-op and work experience for our students. We have all the great things that go with being in a city. But we're also surrounded by some beautiful farmland. So we have, if you're somebody who likes getting out into nature, maybe going hiking, maybe you like bird watching or looking for wildlife, we have one of the few national parks in the United States. It's about 20 minutes from campus. So you can go to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and you can be surrounded by trees and greenery. So we really have the best of both worlds on our campus. Moving on to just briefly touching on some of our other reasons why I think Akron is a really great place to study. Again, I said we have about 15,000 students. We're predominantly known as a STEM university. So we're really strong in programs like engineering. We're number one in the world for polymer science, polymer engineering, so chemistry and chemistry-related programs. We have a fabulous business school that also offers STEM programs. We have great computer science, psychology, biomedical, nursing, all the great programs that so many students are interested in. We're also, surprisingly somehow, very good at art. So we have a wonderful College of Art, some great programs, art museum. We have excellent music programs, and our dance program is well known too. Ariana Grande's choreographer graduated from the University of Akron's dance program. So we have engineering and dancing. We have something for everybody. We also have a wonderful international center here. Today you're meeting 50% of the people that work here, myself and my colleague Shava. But the two of us and our other colleagues are employed specifically to support international students. So that's even before you arrive, doing sessions like this, talking to students, working with students, helping guide them through the process, the visa process. We have a dedicated orientation that Shava runs. We also work with students through everything that happens in their time at the university and going on to after they graduate, if they decide to stay in the US and work on OPT and STEM OPT, we support them all the way through. Moving on to the next slide, if you don't mind. Wanted to spend one quick moment to talk about our career development because we figure that you're coming to get an education, you want to get a job at the end of it. So I wanted to highlight very quickly our amazing Career Services and Student Employment Office that is a great partner for us. At the very beginning on my first slide, I talked about one of the good things about the community being the local businesses that offer internships and jobs and co-ops and work experience. Career Services can help you find those work experiences, whereas we in immigration will help you maintain the immigration compliance and stay in status to actually take advantage of them. Career Services has an amazing job board called Handshake, which, as it says, will help you find internships, co-ops, part-time, full-time positions, etc. They help students with mock interviews. We have a session that Shava runs with them where we review international student resumes and we help, help translate maybe what you've written that might be appropriate for your market at home, for your, I'm overcome by excitement. That might maybe your resume is written for your audience at home, like you'd be applying for a job in your home country, and it might not be appropriate for a US audience. So we, in partnership with Career Services, can help review that with you and can give you some pointers to fine-tune your resume so it's appropriate for a US audience. But I'm not really here to talk extensively about the University of Akron. We're going to go into the visa process, which I believe is the next slide. Excuse me. Oh, yes. So the next slide is how to apply for an F1 visa. So in this section, I'm going to walk you through the steps because we know that it's very confusing and can be very, very overwhelming. I even received an email from an incoming student today who's panicking because he doesn't know where to start. So we're going to just walk you through the different steps. And the first step is to get accepted to an approved university. Spoiler, the University of Akron is an approved university. So go ahead, apply, be accepted and be admitted to us. Then you receive your I-20 and you pay some fees and you schedule your interview. So moving on to the next slide to talk about the I-20. I don't want to assume that everybody knows what an I-20 is. So an I-20 is the document that we produce using information that you provide to us that verifies to the US government that you are who you say you are, that you've been admitted to the university, and that we have verified that you can support yourself for at least the first 2 semesters, 1 academic year of your studies. Okay. It's the document that you will take with you to your interview. It's the document that will stay with you during your entire time studying in the US because it's how you show that you are maintaining status and doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. So it's a very, very important document. And the whole visa process, the whole everything really starts from this. At the University of Akron, we require a few documents so that we can issue this I-20 for you. The first is your passport. We need to know who you are, who you say you are. And then we need to verify your finances. So we do that through a form that we call the Declaration and Certification of Finances, DCF. You may hear it called the financial affidavit or maybe the affidavit of support, but it's the form that you as the student and your sponsors will sign to tell us how you're going to fund your studies. Now that could be scholarships, it could be money from mum and dad, it could be an auntie, it could be from a local business, it could be a loan, it could be a scholarship, it could be many different things. But you'll use that form to tell us how you're going to fund your studies. You'll also provide financial documents alongside that that verifies that the money is available. You provide those to, I believe, in uni, and uni sends them to us through your portal. We then will issue your I-20, we'll sign it, and we'll send it back to you through your portal. And you'll need it for the next slide. Thank you. You'll need your I-20 so that you can pay your CVIS fee. This is CVIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. It's the database that the government uses to, for want of a better word, track what international students and exchange visitors are doing in the United States. So it's the database that we use to create your I-20. It's the database that we access throughout your time at the university to demonstrate to the government that you're doing what you need to do. Okay. You will need to pay a fee to CVIS to become active in that, essentially. It's called the I-901 fee, and it costs currently $350. And it's necessary to have your I-20 to pay this fee. So you'll need to give your CVIS ID number on the form when you're applying, and you'll find the CVIS ID number at the top of your I-20. I believe it's on the top left of the printed version. So you have your I-20, you have your money ready to pay the fee. So you'll log in to the government website and you'll pay on fmjfee.com, I believe. Yes, that's what it is. It says so on the slide. And you'll pay your money to the US government. It's important to know that you, the student side, have to pay that. Universities will not pay 901 fees for students. Please don't send me your money and ask me to pay it for you. I cannot do that. But you personally don't have to do it. Somebody else can do it for you. A family member could do it for you. If you have a sponsor that will do it for you, that's acceptable. The method of payment may change depending on the country that you're located in, but most of the time you can pay with a credit card or a money order. So you'll pay the fee, and at the end of that, you'll get a receipt. The receipt is very important. Make sure you print it out. Make sure you keep it. You'll probably need it for your visa interview, and you may need it when you're crossing the border also after you've got your visa. So now you have your I-20 and you've paid your 901 fee. Now you need to apply for the visa. And this is where the form DS-160 comes in. These are really great, catchy names that the government comes up with for these. DS-160 is just the name of the form. And this is technically, this is the visa application form. So this is you telling the government that I have my I-20, so I'm accepted to the university, and now I'm going to apply for a visa. Most of the time, you'll be applying for an F1 visa. It's easy to remember because it's in a great big, huge font on the front of your I-20, so you can't miss it. And that's what you'll be selecting when you enter on the DS-160 website and forms. That's the process that you're going to follow for an F1 student. The fee for this form is $185, and again, you'll pay it at the time that you complete the form. The DS-160 is a very, very important form. So when you go to your visa interview, you'll realize that these interviews are very, very quick. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. They usually last no more than maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And they are not based on paperwork. They're based on the words that you say verbally at your interview. Yes, you have to have your I-20, your admission letter, and your passport. And you can take other documents with you, carefully organized, so you can grab them quickly if they become necessary. But the visa interview is about the words that you say. But also, this form, the DS-160, really is the only other document that the visa officer is going to look at. It's going to be up on their screen. So they will see the information that you've put on this form as part of your application, and they'll hear the words that you're saying when you go to your interview. And it's really important that you know what is on your DS-160, because ex-visa officers that I've talked to say that any confusion between what's written on the DS-160 and what the student says at the visa interview is going to have that student denied a visa, and we don't want that. So you really need to make sure that you have completed it and you know what it says and that the information is accurate. So once you've completed your form and you've submitted everything, you should get a barcode back. That's another document that you should print because you will probably need that at the interview. Okay. The next thing you need to do is actually select a time for your interview. Either slide is good, thank you. You need to select a time for your interview. Um, some students are telling us still that some embassies around the world are still very backlogged. So it's possible that when you go into the system at the embassy to select your interview time, it may only give you a date that's way out in 2027. Don't panic. Don't panic. Take the first available date, and then you can contact the embassy using the process on their website and request an expedited appointment that will get you to the US in time to start your classes. It's very important to take that appointment that's far out and ask to change it because you can't request an emergency appointment without already having one booked. So unfortunately, you probably have to take that one that's a long way out. Um, at the time you schedule your interview, you will also be asked to schedule your biometrics. So this is when the government will take your fingerprints and they may take a picture of you. This is purely to confirm your identity. So it should be a fairly low stress part of the process, but the timing can vary. It could be the same day as your interview, or it could be a few weeks ahead of your interview. So you need to plan accordingly. But it will really be two separate appointments for you, one for the interview and one for biometrics. Can you move on? Thank you. So here again, here's the summary. This is the steps that you need to take. It looks very straightforward when it's laid out like this, but you get your I-20, you pay your CVIS fee, do the 160, and then biometrics. You pay the application fee. You schedule your interview. You bring your documents and you answer your questions. Again, you don't present your documents unless you're asked for them. Then hopefully you, well, there's one more stage before you get your approval or your denial. So there's one thing on the next slide that's actually fairly new still, and that is the social media check. Oh, okay, sorry, real quick. Before we get to the social media check, this is a comparison of the documents that we need at the university to issue an I-20 and the documents that we suggest you bring, again, carefully filed so that you can grab them if you need them. So you have them ready at your interview. Again, at the interview, you need your passport, you need your I-20. Make sure we signed it. Make sure you have it in hard copy and you signed it. If you're under 18, make sure your parent or guardian has signed it. The confirmation of your CVIS payment, which is an I-901 fee. Your DS-160 confirmation, which is that barcode. And then all these other documents really are in case the visa officer asks for them. But chances are you won't need them. I think social media check might be next. Yes, okay. Last thing for me is the social media checks. This is a new part of the process that the Trump administration put in place about, in the last year. And this is where they will review, the visa officers will review your social media history. So the whole process is a little bit murky still. We don't really know what they're looking for. So the recommendation is that you consider removing or archiving posts that maybe could be considered hostile or extreme. But we also suggest that you don't make a sudden change. You never want to create doubt in a visa officer's mind. And changing what you're posting on and changing the tone of what you're posting on is going to create confusion. What we hope will happen at your visa interview is that at the end, the visa officer will ask for your passport and will ask you to set your profiles, your social media handles to public. That's usually a good sign. At that time, we actually recommend for speed that you set your profiles to public walking into before you go into the interview, because then it makes the whole process a little bit faster, but you can do it afterwards. We've heard from students that sometimes they forget an old account when they're putting this information in their DS-160. So we've been told by visa officers that it is acceptable to have a nice, tidy printout of all your social media handles. So, have your name at the top and your CVIS ID, and then list out your profiles. And when you get to that stage, and when the visa officer asks you to give them your passport and to set your profiles to public, then you can say, I'm not sure if I gave you everything on my DS-160. Here's the full list. That's acceptable. One last note about social media. What will You will probably see in your portal with the embassy that your visa goes from, in process because you're having the interview. It will go to refused and it will say administrative processing. Don't panic. You haven't been denied a visa. It just means that you're going through the social media check. What we hope will happen is that that refused will then change to approved. And that's the time you'll get that wonderful email from the embassy that says you should go back and you should pick up your passport that has your visa and it has your visa in it, ready for you to make plans to come to the United States. So I believe that's all my part. Sala, are you next?
I believe so. Thank you so much, Nicola. Now that we know how to reach the F1 visa interview with all these steps very nicely detailed and explained, let's talk about the part that's perhaps the shortest one when you get the interview, yet one that the students are the most nervous about. And if we go to the next slide, where we break down slightly what is a visa interview and how to understand it. So, number one thing that I like to tell everyone is that there are no set questions. Every interview is different. Probably the most common question we get is, what questions will they ask? There is no script. Visa officers do not have a list of questions, not even a list of 150 or 375 questions where they go and pick it with a finger which one I'm going to ask today. There's no list of questions. They can ask literally anything. So you need to be prepared on how we're going to speak shortly, but one thing to remember for now is that there's no set questions. So if you're going on Google, asking agents, asking us, asking ChatGPT, and somebody gives you a list of questions, do not trust them blindly. It's the research and your intention that matters, and not your script done interview answers, which can actually, sabotage your interview really and not help you. But I'm going to go into that a bit later. Now, the purpose of the interview is to understand whether the students intend to settle in the US or travel back to their home country after studying. And the students can afford to stay, and if the students can afford to stay in the US for the whole duration of the course. So, for example, if you are asked to provide financial documents just for part of your studies, now in US visa interview, you might be asked, and again, might be, there's no set questions of how you're going to pay for the rest of your studies and the rest of your activities. Now, also just a reminder that for the most up-to-date list of required documents, you need to always check your local US consulate website. I'm seeing a lot on social media at the moment of advices of what to bring to your visa interview. Now, do not trust social media, really. Do go to official US websites and check there. And if you do decide to bring a document that's not on the list and you think that it might support you, do bring it, but then make sure that the ones that are actually needed are fully organized and you can find them on time instead of bringing this massive pile of documents that later you cannot go through yourself or find it when the visa officer asks you. The interview is just a few minutes. Really, it's just a few minutes, no set questions. And the last thing you want to do is to be nervous and shuffling through your documents thinking how much time has passed. And if we can go to the next slide, we're going to speak a bit about a student preparation. So no set questions, just a few minutes. How do I actually prepare? Now, by investing into your future, like investing in anything else in your life, you do your research. It's your time, it's your future, it's you traveling. If it's your parents paying for your studies or someone else paying for the studies, it's also them trusting in your future. It's a big life step and such an exciting one. I am sure that no student goes into it blindly without their research. What you do, however, need to do is be able to clearly speak about the research you have done. So here I listed out a few topics that you might be asked about, or really, even before choosing the institution, this is something you should check for. So number one, your finances, tuition fee, living expenses, and your sponsors. One thing I sometimes hear students do, if somebody's sponsoring you, especially younger students, if your parents are sponsoring you, I hear that they sometimes say the answer, I'm not sure, because my father is paying. That's absolutely fine. If your father is paying for your studies and living expenses, that's absolutely brilliant, but it's still your studies. and your living expenses and your future. You need to understand the amount of money that it is, and you need to speak in US dollars, not your local currency, in US dollars. That will also save you a lot of stress when the visa officer asks you on the spot to convert what you know in your local currencies to US dollars. You don't have your phone with you, you don't have internet. It's not as easy as it sounds. Motivation and interest, often overlooked by students preparing, but probably one of the most important things. You are you. You are the one studying. They want to hear you, not ChatGPT, not the script you were given, not what your friend suggested you should say. You should show your motivation and actually you should show how much you want it really, be it through your intonation, which shouldn't be robotic, or through your research. Presentation is also important, dress code and being on time. Dress code. We just had a conversation with Nicola just before the webinar about the dress code, and we talked about it. And really, it's whatever you feel the most comfortable and presentable with, whatever is going to give you the most confident. And what I like to sometimes say, would your mom be proud of you if she saw you dressed like this for a visa interview? If the answer is yes, you have nothing to worry about. Another important thing is being on time. And because I know there's now people joining this webinar from all over the world, and being on time has different meanings around the world. I'm going to be very, very specific. Be at least 15 minutes early. Better wait behind the door until there's your time than be late. If you're late, your visa is going to be denied. Also, if you're coming in already sweaty from running and hyperventilating to your 2 minute interview, that's not going to be giving you extra confidence to answer the questions. So be early. Um, Social media, as Nicola already covered, document preparation, not rambled in your pocket somewhere, not with a coffee spilled on them, although if it did happen 2 minutes before the interview, don't stress too much. Everyone's a human, but they should be presentable. And when you're asked for a document, you're likely not going to be asked for a pile of documents. You're going to be asked for a document one by one. So familiarize yourself and be ready to give just one document that the visa officer asks. Don't give the whole pile, just give the document that you're asked for. Think about your life in the USA, so your travel arrangement, campus accommodation, etc. And when we speak about accommodation, also often I hear, I will think about accommodation once my visa is approved. While this on paper sounds like a good answer, really, if you're thinking to study, you already should be with the mindset that I will get this visa. So you should have at least understanding of what's happening with your accommodation, what is it, how is it, etc. Think about your future plans, so ties to your home country and also your plans after your studies. Institution details, such as unique selling points of the institutions. Study modules, look at your course. Do you understand the study modules? You don't need to learn them by heart, not at all. That could actually make it worse, but you need to understand what the modules are. Worst thing that you want to do is learning the modules by heart and then reciting them in an interview. And then somebody asks, oh, can you tell me more about this module? But you only learn the modules by heart, the names, and you can't speak further about it. That's a red flag. So understand the modules, don't learn them by heart. You can also check alumni, professors, etc. Really, whatever interests you the most. Think about what interested you the most about Akron, University of Akron, and that's where you should really focus your research on. Your personal details, so work and study history. So whatever you also put on your DS-160 form, you need to remember it just in case the information wouldn't differ, especially if you completed the form longer ago or somebody helped you slightly. Just read it through again before the interview, just to not by accident differ the information that you've given to the different channels. Personal details, as well as I mentioned before, is what's unique about you. So think, how do you stand out of other candidates? And also your travel details, previous international travel and international travels of your family members. So here I'm also going to add previous visa rejections if you have any. If you do have any previous visa rejection, be it from US or any other country, be prepared to be asked about it, but also be prepared to speak about it. Number one rule is don't lie. If you do have visa rejection previously, you need to say it. If you lie about it, they see it on a screen. They see all your visa rejections while you're standing in front of an officer. They see the visa rejections next to you. You lying about your previous visa rejection will get you rejected on the spot. And there's different kinds of visa rejections. From some, you can still recover. Now, from the one where you lied, that's it. You will not get another visa. So make sure you don't lie on your visa interview. Make sure that information never differs. And if you do have the visa rejection, another question I get, is this the end for me? Is this the end of my student journey? Should I keep on trying? You should definitely keep on trying. We saw students getting a visa after 7 tries, after 10 tries. We saw students getting it after the second try. So it does absolutely happen. So don't put your head down. It's definitely possible. Think about why were you rejected previously and what has changed about it. Be confident when you speak about your previous visa rejection instead of hiding, and it will be just fine. And if we go to the next slide, I would like to speak also about the common interview mistakes and starting with number one in the next slide, it's the not enough research. So I always like to say, if you decide to buy a car, you wouldn't just go outside of your house, go to the first dealership and buy the first car you see. You would do your research. You would think, what do I want? How much money do I have? How much am I willing to spend? What's the mileage? Am I buying new or used, etc.? So if you're doing that much research just by buying a car, you're definitely doing the research for the university. Not doing the research yourself or letting somebody else do the research for you is a big red flag. Now, we sometimes have students saying, "Oh, my mother picked the university because this, and that. Oh, we would love to have your mother studying here, but you don't show the passion of your own research." So it's important that you do your own research on the topics on the slides before. And I know the next question coming in the Q&A section is going to be, are we going to share the slides after the webinar? Yes, we will. So in case you missed the slide or didn't take the screenshot, don't worry, at the end of the webinar, the slides will be shared. And if we go to the next slide, please. Number two, or perhaps now even number one reason of students being rejected in the interview is providing scripted or generic answers. I hear it all the time, Sila, but they only asked me one question and I was rejected after saying just 2 sentences. We have interviewed thousands of students. And when you interview so many, you can say after 1 or 2 sentences that a student is scripted or giving generic answers. If we go to the next slide, I'll speak a bit why does the script is so why is it so visible? How can we hear it so well? So first of all, scripted students sound robotic. It doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound conversational. And a visa interview is a conversation. It's not a test. There are no correct answers you can learn. Remember, there are no set questions. That means that there cannot be any set answers. It's also the lack of authenticity. You seem disconnected from the message when you are with a script. I like to say that there's a reason why actors worldwide are so loved and so well paid is because acting is hard. It's really hard. And perhaps you're world famous actor and you will be able to nail it to a visa interview with the script, but I highly doubt it. And at the moment, number one reason for visa rejection is being on script. It's also the missed adaptations. What I hear all the time is students learning the answers by heart, and then the question is slightly different than the answer learned, and they don't connect. And suddenly everything goes down the drain. The visa officer sits in front of you with one eyebrow raised, scribbling that rejected. So that happens as well. And it's also the over rehearsed feel. You just feel when someone's has over rehearsed, it just doesn't sound natural at all. So why does speaking naturally work? It gives that engagement and connection. Previously, we talked about showing your motivation. It's practically impossible to show your motivation if you're speaking with somebody else's words. Also gives you the flexibility. If there's a question you didn't expect and you don't have a script, well, then all the questions are the ones you didn't expect. And that's how you start to have a natural conversation with the visa officer. Also gives you the authenticity and just the better persuasion. There's a lot of ways I see students now trying to get the script from agents to friends to ChatGPT, and unfortunately, none of them work. So my biggest advice here is be yourself and and if somebody hands you a script, the best thing you can do is throw the script out and speak with the person who handed you the script so it wouldn't do the next person. And if we go to the next slide, I'd also like to just give an example, really, of why the scripted answers don't work. So, for example, a student says, after completing this course, I want to work at Nestle, Facebook, or Google. Wonderful. On paper, that's a great answer because that's what we learned from a script. But then if it's a scripted answer, the visa officer, and remember, no set questions, starts asking, why these companies? Have you tried applying for the job without the university degree? Which country are these offices located in? How will this course help you achieve it? What is your plan B? Which position at this country have you applied to this position at this company? Do you know who works at this position at the company now? Did you try on LinkedIn? Is this your main goal? Do you have any more? Do you have any other goals or plans after the studies? They won't ask you all these questions, but they might ask one or two. And if this statement was not true to yourself, you will not be able to answer these questions. However, if this answer is actually true to you and it's not scripted, you will be able to follow the conversation as you do when you speak, let's say, with your friends. Let's go to the next slide, please. So there's also generic answers. I'd like to say sometimes an example, what would be a generic answer out of the study sector? So let's say somebody asks, oh, why did you choose this hotel to stay? Oh, I chose it because it has a bed. Why would you choose a hotel without a bed? So if it applies to everyone, that means it's generic. So I give an example out of three here. Uh, University of Akron has a library, classrooms, and good teachers. That's why I chose this university. I chose to study at University of Akron because the ranking stood out. Or I chose to study at University of Akron because they offered a program that was exactly what I was looking for because it had A, B, C, etc. Now, the first one, show me a university in the US that doesn't have a library or good teachers advertised, or show me the ones that don't advertise their rankings. Now, if you can speak about the rankings and why they're important for you, that could still be into the section of a good answer. But the third one clearly shows the most research. And let's go to the next slide, please. Poor communication. So that's inability to effectively communicate or convince the visa officers about your genuine intentions, academic goals, etc. I'd like to say try to hit the sweet spot between the very, very short answer and the very, very long answer. How do you do that? The most painful and yet the easiest way, record yourself talking and then listen to yourself. As painful as it is to listen to your own voice, sometimes that's the best exercise you can do. Also, practice with your friends, practice in front of a mirror, practice with your teachers, or even practice with us if you're not comfortable yet. And let's go to the next one. Reason number four, and that's something I already mentioned briefly, that's information inaccuracy. So lying about anything might lead to information inaccuracy, such as a previous visa rejections, family ties in the US. Don't hide these as well. They can actually help you. Some students think that it might hinder you, but really providing false, misleading, or inaccurate information will lead to a visa rejection. And if you can go to the next slide. This is where I'm going to give it to Shara to speak about maintaining your visa status once hopefully you do get a visa and arrive to US. Shara, up to you. I'm sorry, Shara. I think we're having trouble hearing you. Would you like to try to mute yourself and unmute again?
Sure. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you a lot better now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So once you've made it to the United States and you're at the university, your most important thing that you're going to do outside of your studies is ensuring that everything you do aligns with maintaining your visa status. So what does that look like? That looks like making sure that you arrive on time, but not too early. So just like the example that Sally gave for everybody, you want to ensure that you arrive within the appropriate timeline. So F1 and J1 visa holders must arrive no more than 30 days before the program start date. Arriving earlier than this could result in denial of entry. So you want to ensure that you're booking your flights in a reasonable enough time so that you do not um, arrive sooner than that 30-day window. Next, you want to ensure that you are adhering to, uh-oh, hello?
No, that's actually better, Shava. I think you were having bandwidth issues. Your voice got smoother the second you turned your picture off. It was lovely to see you, but thank you. Keep going.
Okay, as long as everything is good with sound, great. So with maintaining your status, you want to ensure that you're adhering to proper work authorizations. F1 and J1 students cannot work off campus without prior permission. Violating those rules can lead to immediate termination of your visa status. You also want to ensure that if you're working on campus, that you limit those hours to 20 hours a week during the academic year. That is during fall and spring. And then if you have dependents, ensuring that they are not working on or off campus under any circumstance. Next, you want to ensure that when you're here in the United States, that you are attending your classes, that you're properly enrolled in the correct number of courses for your academic level, and that you're not exceeding the online class limit. You are able to travel with proper authorization. You can also travel during your appropriate breaks, as well as if you have emergencies and you need to leave the United States. Full-time enrollment is required during the fall and the spring, summer, as flexibility for you. So if you wanted to increase your online course, so for example, you have flexibility to do that. Summer is not a requirement. Or as you mentioned, if you wanted to spring, you're probably able to do that as well. And then finally, you want to make sure that you are in good academic standing and making normal progress towards degree
Shara,
completion.
I'm very, very sorry. Unfortunately, we are having a bit of trouble hearing you. Perhaps let's try to rejoin the session if you don't mind. Really sorry.
Sure.
Meanwhile, Nicola,
Yeah, you
would
want
you
me to
like
carry on?
to, yeah, if you could
Absolutely. Sorry, everybody.
kindly, apologies all. Thank you,
Yeah, sorry
Nicola.
about that. Um, do you need me to review what Shava said? I mean, or was that were we good? We okay? Basically, you need to maintain your visa status so you can keep going and you can keep get to the end goal, which is actually graduating. Right now, today, I know that it feels like the goal is getting here, but really our goal is to get you out of here when you've made it in the first place. So we want to make sure you're following all the rules and you're doing what needs to be done so that you can stay in good status, you can stay as a student, and you can graduate. So as Shava said, make sure you don't arrive too early. There's a start date, there's a program entry date on your I-20, which is 30 days before your program start dates. I believe it says it's the earliest admissible date. That's the earliest you can enter the United States. If you try and enter earlier, you will probably be sent home. Um, so yeah, make sure you plan your travel accordingly. Don't arrive too late. A visa officer, or sorry, the border patrol officer will likely question you if you come in too late. So if you have to come in after the start of classes, make sure you talk to your university and make sure that we are notified and we can make adjustments in your CVIS record so that you can be admitted. Work restrictions, you need permission to work off campus, any off campus job. There's no such thing as an exempt off campus job that doesn't require permission through our office. And the consequences for violating this can be very severe and will lead to the immediate termination of your visa status, which you don't want. You can work on campus. It's limited to 20 hours a week during the academic year. At Akron, we can give you slightly more hours during the summer, but the 20 hours per week is set by regulation for every single international student in the US. If you have family members with you, dependents, F2s, they're not allowed to work at all under any circumstances. You have to be physically present in the US for classes, even if some of your classes are online. There is a requirement of how many credits you are required to be taken online. And once you hit that requirement, required to be taken in person, once you hit that, you can take an additional classes online if you wish. But again, you should always check with your university to make sure you're maintaining compliance. You can travel over break. You have a family emergency. We do recommend that you contact your international center so that they know if you're leaving the country. You would need a travel signature on your I-20 to return. So you do need to make sure that we are informed. We can also help you if you need to let the government know that you're taking an extended leave and going home, these kinds of things. So always check in with us. Yeah, and full-time enrollment is required in the fall and the spring. Academic progress, you have to maintain good academic standing. If you don't meet academic requirements, or if you're dismissed from the university, that would result in your termination of your visa status. And different universities have different standards for all students at the universities as to how many classes you could fail or not make progress in before we would get to that kind of stage. But you need to make sure you're always progressing towards your degree. So you want to go on to the next one? I'm going to talk very briefly about CPT and OPT, and Shava is the CPT OPT expert, so hopefully she will come back. But moving on to the next slide, this is the questions about work experience. So CPT is called Curricular Practical Training, and it's the work authorization for internships, co-ops, clinicals, any kind of work experience that is built into your curriculum. So it has to be required for all students in that program, and it has to relate to your academic major. It can be paid or it can be unpaid. And you must have completed at least one academic year in full-time status to be able to be eligible for CPT. So there's no undergraduate classes or undergraduate programs that will allow you to do CPT in that first year, unless you're potentially already in the United States. But some graduate programs may require immediate training, and they may offer CPT in that first year. You need to have a job first, and then you need to apply through your international center through our office, and we will issue you a new I-20 that shows you've been approved for CPT. You can't start work until you have that approval from us. Want to go to the next one? Thank you. What is OPT? So OPT is optional practical training. So the first one, C, the C stands for curricular, to remind you that it's part of your program. OPT is what you might choose to do after you've graduated. So we do offer pre-completion OPT, but generally there's really no reason for it. We usually steer students towards CPT, and students will do post-completion OPT after you graduate. This will allow you to stay in the United States for 12 months of optional work. It has to be related to your major. You apply to the government, to USCIS. They evaluate your application, and they are the ones who grant this benefit. If you're in a STEM program, you have the option to then apply for an additional 2 years of STEM OPT. And again, this is all based on current regulation. This is all subject to change, but this is how it is right now. Want to go to the next one? Thank you. Here's a quick summary for you. Again, CPT and then OPT. So the type is CPT is part of your program. OPT is usually after you've graduated. The job offer is required for CPT. It's not required for OPT. Authorization is through the international office for CPT, USCIS for OPT. Both could be paid or unpaid. That doesn't impact whether you need to apply for the benefit. CPT can be part-time during school, depending on the program that you're in. Some of our programs do actually require full-time for a semester. It's actually why we give all undergraduates 5 years on an I-20 to finish a 4-year degree, because it gives you the time to do a semester of CPT if it's required for you. And then OPT needs to be full-time after you graduate. If you do 12 months of full-time CPT during your academic program, there's no, you use up all of your OPT eligibility. So you do have to, sometimes, depending on your program you're in, you have to make sure you keep track of your employment days. And we help you with that. And again, OPT, you get, most students will apply for 12 months. And then if you're in a STEM program, you can currently apply for the STEM extension.
Wonderful.
Next one.
There's actually a question from the audience. Is it okay to mention in your visa interview about your CPT or OPT plans?
That's a fabulous question. So my recommendation, I'm not a visa officer. My recommendation is that you don't mention OPT plans because remember, an F1 visa is a non-immigrant student visa. You are here to study. And even though OPT is an earned benefit of staying in good status and doing the needful, doing everything that you need to be doing while you're progressing towards your degree, and it really is part of being an F1, you're still an F1 student when you're on OPT. It gives the visa officer the impression that you're coming to work, and that is not compatible with a student visa. Now, talking about CPT in your visa interview, I think could be different because that shows that you know your curriculum, you know your program of study, and you could, depending how you talk about it, you could say, I plan to do CPT as part of my study because it's required by my program. Everybody does it, and I'm going to use the experience that I gain from that experience to apply to the job that I'm going to be applying for at home when I return home. So you're showing the visa officer that you know your program and that again, you're not intending to stay in the US. It's a non-immigrant student visa category, and that you know that you're going to go home. And look, this is my plan for when I go home. So CPT might be okay to mention depending how you talk about it. My suggestion is that you don't mention OPT. I don't know if Saula or Shava would have a different way of responding to that question.
I think that's a brilliant way of responding, and there's a straightaway follow-up, I assume, from the same person. What if they randomly ask about a CPT OPT? Now, I think that goes to the previous conversation we have is, first of all, don't lie. Be honest about
Yeah.
your plans. If you did do your research about CPT and OPT and you feel comfortable enough, you understand how they work, that the university allows it, your course allows it, and it's one of the reasons perhaps you chose it, don't lie. It's the best answer always. Unless, Nicola,
Yeah.
anything to add?
No, not really. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think that don't lie, be honest. Only you know why you chose us. Only you know what your plans are. And yeah, I think Salah's answer was great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicola. And we have
Sure.
Shara now back. Hi, Shara. Would you like to add anything about CPT and OPT?
I hope I
Hello,
did you
thank you.
justice.
Sorry. I'm sure you did great. Sorry for my connection being so spotty. Um,
No worries, happens to all of us.
I,
And for now,
I I would imagine that
unfortunately, sorry, Shara, we're still having troubles hearing you.
so
But for now, let's go to the next slide, perhaps. Team. Right, and now we're going to go to the anticipated section of speaking about truths and myths. So something we hear in the market of students thinking that perhaps it's true, perhaps it's not. Also social media disinformation, etc. And we'll speak with Nicola today of what is actually true and what is just a myth. And without further ado, let's go to the next slide.
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot here. Okay, okay.
So the first one we keep on hearing from the students is I can work full time on my F1 visa whenever I want. And I hear students saying like, "Oh, I have a friend of a friend of a friend that works as an Uber driver full time and they're maintaining their status." Nicola, is that true?
No, unless
No.
your major, remember, your no is a simple answer. Unless your major is food delivery, I think you would be challenged to explain to somebody how being an Uber driver or, a DoorDash driver relates to your program of study in the United States. Remember, CPT and OPT have to be related to your major. So it's very important that you bear that in mind. You don't go off and just find a random job. Um, there's no such thing as an exempt employer. Students have told us this. Oh, I'll work for Uber. I'll work for because they're not subject to the rules. They are subject to the rules. So no, you cannot pick any full-time job or any job off campus without talking to us. Now, on campus, you can only work on campus part-time during the semesters. As I had said, 20 hours a week is the maximum. Um, any and all off-campus jobs should be reviewed through your international office before you take them.
I think it's very, very clear. There's also a related question. I hope you don't mind if I pick it up now, Nicola.
Okay.
Does University of Akron have any paid internship?
Oh, this is a great question. So the short answer is yes. I mentioned our wonderful career services department. They are the keepers of internships and co-ops and different work experience. So they're the ones who will help you find a job. We are the ones who will help keep you legal while you're doing the work. But yes, many of our students do work. They work over the summer, and they can make a significant amount of money sometimes. But again, it has to always be related to their major. Is that a good enough answer for now? When you come to campus, we'll explain it in more details for you, but that's the short version.
I think this covers it perfectly. And with this, let's go to the next slide and check if it's true or myth. Saying I want to study, sorry, I want to stay in the US after graduation is a good thing?
No, I'm actually just going to read the slide. The F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa, so any indication you plan to stay permanently will lead to a visa denial. You must show intent to return home. This is
This
perfect.
is
This
the
perfect
quickest
answer.
and easiest way to get your visa denied. I want to stay in
Yes,
US after graduation. Denied. Very simple.
yes. And again, I think it can be a little bit confusing because OPT is an earned benefit of an F1 student and is part of the student visa. But again, saying that you want to stay and you want to work and you want to use OPT can be seen as evidence that you want to stay permanently. So I think you should be very careful about talking about that.
Well said. Thank you, Nicola. Let's go to the next one. Agents or friends can coach me for my interview word to word. So I can get a script because my friend got the same script and we're all going to go to with the perfect answers. Nicola, what do you think about that?
No, don't do it. Just please don't do it. When I've worked with ex-visa officers, they say you should aim to sound like you're talking to your auntie. And the way that you're explaining everything is that I'm just talking to a family member and I'm talking about um, my personal goals, what I want to get out of the experience, what I have to learn, how I plan to use my experience. Um, don't be listening to what your friends say, because what's relevant for their situation might not be relevant for yours. Don't worry about what everybody else in the line with you at the embassy. Don't try and listen to what they're saying and say that that's like the secret answer. There are no secret answers. The best way to get your visa approved is to be genuine and speak from your heart. That's the trick as far as it is. Spontaneous, genuine responses that you know what you want to say, but the way you say it doesn't sound scripted. Kind of hopefully how we've sounded in this webinar. We've known what we want to say. We know what we want you to take away from the conversation, but I hope we haven't sound like we have it written down and we're reading.
And that brings me to our Q&A section where somebody is asking, what exactly do we need to say with an answer of why University of Akron? And I think this brings it exactly to this myth that there is something that you can say exactly. There isn't such thing. You need to do your own research and you need to think, why me exactly? Why I exactly want University of Akron exactly? So it needs to come from you and your own research, really. So
Why
no
did
one
you
can
apply
coach
to us
you.
in the first place? Why did you pick us to apply to? That's your answer.
And myself and Nicola answering this for you now would be again us coaching you, which would lead to visa denial. So unfortunately, that's the only way we can answer this question today is that you need to do your research and think for yourself. Why? Let's go to the next one. Right, and this one is actually in the Q&A section as well. Having family members in the US is an instant visa denial. Nicola, is that correct?
I'm actually going to say no, but I think it depends how you talk about your family members. Um, so visa officers are human beings too. They also probably, actually definitely went to university. They most likely went a long way from home, and they know how important it is to have a support system. So I think that if you have family that maybe live close to your university, or maybe you have a sibling who's at that university, that you could say, um, you could talk about them in a way that shows that you're going close by to them because they could provide you support. I think that's important. Um, and I don't think it's seen as a negative because we have family members of students at our university who have got visas at different times. So we know that having big brother or big sister at the university can be a plus. It depends how you talk about it. If you have family members in a different state and you don't want to be quite that close to them, but they're there in case you need them, I think that's a positive, right? So I think it really depends how you talk about this. I think that if you have family members who unfortunately didn't follow the rules, that might be a little harder for you to explain to or show a visa officer that you will follow the rules, even though your sibling or your family member didn't. But it comes back to, again, you're showing your intent, your commitment, and that you're committed to following the regulations, and how you talk about it can make a difference. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this answer. And let's go to the next slide then.
Oh,
And this is when we go to the Q&A section. I think with our myth-busting session, we actually took about, well, if not 50%, then 70% of the questions in the Q&A section. So hopefully we did a good job, and a low number of questions means that most of them have been answered through this webinar. But let's take a few that perhaps we didn't manage to touch upon through our topics. So number one, and I think it's slightly repetitive from the previous slides, but Nicola, I'm still going to direct this question to you. What
okay.
type of posts on my social media can affect the visa decision?
I I wish I knew the answer to that. I don't know. I believe they're looking for something that's un-American, but I don't know what that means. So I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm sorry. I don't know. Sala, do you have any advice for that one?
I'd say that I'm going to repeat it and sound like my parents and parents of my parents, but internet is forever. If you're
Perfect.
posting anything on internet that you believe in the future might make you uncomfortable, embarrassed, make your parents embarrassed if they see you, your teachers, your university, don't post it in the first place. That's my first advice. Another question I get a lot, what if I'm an influencer back in my home country and I post almost every day? That's absolutely fine as well. But what is your content? Is your content nice and friendly to everyone around you? Or is there a lot of hate speech? So just reflect on your content and think, would I make my parents proud? Would I make my grandparents proud? Nicola?
Excellent points. And I really appreciate that you said that. So remember, we talked about work and being approved to work in the United States. Being an influencer, a social media influencer, and posting from the inside the United States can be considered to be work. So you may need to consider during your interview how you might address this. Like because you can't do it. It is going to be a way that you're probably going to get sent home. Unless maybe you're in a marketing major or something, and there's some way that we can authorize CPT or something, but it has to be related to a class. And remember, you're not even eligible for CPT in your first year. So I would be very, very careful about being an influencer at home and giving a visa officer the impression that you might continue to do that from in the US, because they would consider that to be unauthorized work. So I'd be very cautious about that.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Nicola. Right, we have a next question, and I think I even know where it stems from. I think it's a great question. Do I need to show funds for all years of study?
That is an excellent question. And that is something that differs between what you provide to us as the university to issue your I-20 to the way you probably went to uh, when you go to the visa interview. So remember, to issue an I-20, we need to guarantee that you can support yourself for at least 2 semesters. Your program is going to be longer than 2 semesters. So when you go to the visa interview, they are going to want to know that you can guarantee you can support yourself for at least 2 semesters, and they're going to want to know you have a plan to cover the rest of your studies. So if you take out a loan, which is completely acceptable, they're going to want to know your plans for repaying that loan. So you don't have to necessarily have the money now because US education is very expensive and people may not have that money immediately, but they need to know you have a plan for that for the rest of your studies. Good question.
Wonderful. Great question and wonderfully answered. Thank you, Nicola. It's very, very helpful. I'm going through the rest of the Q&A section, and I can see a lot of questions were posted earlier in the webinar and now have been answered while answering other Q&A section questions and through other slides. Again, everyone, the slides will be shared with you and so will the recording. And with this, also with the time, I think we're at the end of the webinar. So just the last question is actually from myself to Nicola. And
Uh-oh.
a very simple one, really. Nicola, do you have any advice for a student currently going through this process, a student that just got an I-20 and is now looking at this long process of getting to US? Any last advice before we close the webinar?
I would say what I said to the student this morning who was trying to do everything at once. Take a deep breath, refer to the slides at the beginning of the webinar where we outline everything else, and go through everything methodically. Don't try and do everything at once. Don't panic. Um, Spend some time uh, outlining your plans, outlining what you want to do, figuring out why you chose your university, the University of Akron. Why think of ways, to be ready for your visa interview. Do what Salah said, record yourself, speak in front of the mirror. I know it's horrible. I hate it, but it's the way that you're going to be approved. But don't panic. Stay positive. Ask in uni questions, ask us questions, and believe in yourself because you can do this. Students get visas all the time, and I believe in you. You can do this. You can be the students that get visas. Done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicola, and thank you for summarizing everything so well. I'm wishing everyone on this webinar best of luck. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Thank you, Nicola, so much for presenting. And
My
I'm
pleasure.
gonna give it back to our wonderful marketing team. Perhaps you didn't hear them today on the call, but they were here in the back supporting us, supporting with setting this webinar and supporting us with the Q&A section. So thank you very much, Uni Marketing team. Really appreciate your help as well. Thank you everyone for joining today.